So, hi, Eric. Thanks for taking a minute to sit down with me. We are here to talk about some news that's come out of FDA recently regarding the ASCA program, and you're the expert to tell us what that's all about. So, first of all, introduce yourself to folks so they know who you are.
Sure, yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Of course.
I'm Eric Franca. I am the ASCA team lead in the Center for Devices and Radiological Health at FDA. Okay. So I'm here to talk about ASCA program.
Makes sense. Yeah, Sounds
absolutely.
like your baby. So, so what is it? What is this ASCA program? Describe it to folks.
Okay, let me define the acronym first, because that's always a good place to start. The Accreditation Scheme for Conformity Assessment program. So the ASCA program is a way for us to streamline the conformity assessment aspects of pre-market review. So FDA, we do a lot of pre-market submission reviews, and ASCA was originally thought of by Scott Colburn, our fearless leader in our
Scott
division
well,
now.
yes.
I'm sure you do, yeah.
Frequent flyer here at AAMI.
Yeah, he got together with some subject matter experts in the center and then talked externally with people that we know through working with standards and our friends at NIST, and ultimately decided maybe we can develop a scheme, accreditation scheme, to make our lives easier, and in turn reducing burden for manufacturers and promoting safety in medical devices. So that's how the ASCA program was born.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So you touched on it a little bit, but let's go into detail on that. So what specific problems does the ASCA program address?
Yeah, so Scott got together with these SMEs. I think Al Taylor is one, and Brian Fitzgerald. They're known in the standards development communities, but and a lot of our biocompatibility experts, Jen Good and Julian Lee, to develop this program. And what they were seeing was inconsistencies in test reporting. No confidence in the results that we were seeing. The methods looked a little funny, where we have to generate manufacturers will be familiar with this term, deficiencies, in terms of when we do pre-market reviews. So we're finding issues with things that should be relatively straightforward. It's standardized, right? So we want people to follow the methods. We want to have confidence that they're doing it the way they should be doing it. And the results coming out of that should be trusted because it was done properly. So the problem we're trying to solve is making life easier for manufacturers and reviewers alike. By driving up our confidence in the methodology of test labs, saying we believe this test lab's doing it properly, then we can streamline the test reporting to make life easier on the pre-market side when we're doing our review.
Right.
And that's part of what we're driving with the ASCA program, to try and generate summary test reports which will contain the information we need to know, and none of the nice-to-know stuff or the fluff or the data tables or the extra things that maybe we don't really need anymore, because we have confidence that this was done properly and it's reported in a summarized, streamlined way. So then any of our lead reviewers can do the review instead of just having to kick it to, someone who's the expert on it in the center every time.
Right. Okay, makes sense. So, and we'll dig a little more into the specifics of the program, but say a little bit. The news now is that this was a pilot program. That's now a permanent program. So say a little bit about the pilot. What happened in the pilot?
So yeah, we decided this was a great idea. We held a workshop. We designed it, published a few guidances, no problem, right? Super easy. And launched
the pilot.
Yeah, right? Yeah. We're trying to edit the guidances now, but we'll get into that later. So the pilot was launched. We accredited, we're up to over 100 test labs right now, ASCA accredited test labs, and we have 5 accreditation bodies that are currently ASCA recognized. So the program now is operating as it should, where we're seeing summary test reports come in, and what we've seen during the pilot is that things are operating the way we expected it to. The summary test reports are streamlined, it contains the information we expect to see, and it makes review life a lot easier and generate, ideally, less questions for manufacturers, because we don't have to dig into, typos in the full test report or an oddity in the testing setup image that we see in the full test report.
Right.
So it operated well. So the pilot went well, and that is something we will be publishing I think by the end of Q1 of this coming year, and that is something that was negotiated in the MDUFA 5 legislation in terms of what our commitments are for moving forward as a program. One was concluding the pilot because industry was happy with how it was going generally. So we're a permanent program now. We're excited about that. And the next steps are figuring out where do we go from here and how do we become a very efficient, streamlined program that can work for everybody going forward.
All right. So I think you've answered this a little bit, but let's dig in just a little bit more. There's benefits for both regulators, there's benefits for the manufacturers, and there's benefits for the labs. Obviously, greater certainty is good for them as well. So there's some real-world examples or real-world stuff. Without delving into something that's too specific, but case studies you can share with us in essence?
Sure. Yeah, we've got case studies. So, I mean, we haven't had a huge number of submissions with ASCA summary test reports in it, so I will never stop saying use the ASCA program.
All right, we're going to get to that.
And we will get to that later.
Do that.
But
yep.
Of the submissions we have seen, generally it has been much easier to review. So I have a really fun example from the biocompatibility space. We got a 510K submission for a Class 2 medical device, and I'm not going to go into specifics because I really can't, but I can talk about the timelines and wiggledy about it. But so this manufacturer decided maybe we can get by without doing biocompatibility testing, new biocompatibility testing for whatever reason. They provided a justification. So we received that submission, we do our review, we go back and forth with the manufacturer. And in the end, they get an additional information letter. So we put them on their submission on hold. We say, the only thing in that letter was, we don't agree with your justification. We think you do need biological evaluation, so new biocompatibility testing. So credit to this manufacturer. They said, "Oh, okay, we took our shot. That didn't fly." Either because it was a misunderstanding in the guidance or it wasn't clear. But in the end, FDA says you need to go do that. Then, okay, they said, "How do we do this as quickly as possible?" They went to a place that should know what they're doing. They should know how to do it, and they should know how to report it in a way that makes life easier for FDA when they do review the reports. And they went to an ASCA accredited test lab. So while that took time, they had to build a contract, develop the test plan. They had to get on the schedule for the testing and then get the test reports. Ultimately, they came back to FDA with ASCA summary test reports. I think there were 3 biocompatibility methods evaluated, which usually can be up to like 60-ish pages.
Right.
The 3 summary test reports we got, I think, totaled maybe 10. And in our review of them, it took three methodologies, three sets of results. It took maybe 15 minutes.
Wow. Because the lab had been assessed.
The lab knew what they were doing. They saw the reason why they needed biocompatibility testing. We knew the methodology they were using. We were comfortable with it. And they can just report in a way. And if you look, we have guidance documents on our website. The biocompatibility guidance document has example summary test reports in it. Both of them do, the basic safety and biocompatibility. But you can see the templates for what will go into that. It's a lot of check boxes. And then essentially the results, which should be straightforward. If it's a positive, not positive in a biocompatibility sense, but a positive.
Right. And your reviewers know where to look, know what to expect.
Yep.
That's the efficiency piece of all of this.
And so our 15 minutes to do that review, and then the review was done.
What would that have been under the old model?
So I'm
digging through 60 pages trying to find the
You dig
answers.
through 60 pages, it would take longer. It would take on the order of hours to do the review, and maybe you need a biocompatibility consult to do it. In this case, you could have the lead reviewer, your average engineer, who may not be an expert in biocompatibility. Most of us aren't in CDRH, but they can do the review just because it should be straightforward. Like if everything's ticked off, like everything is within the normal methodology that we expect, and then the results are, there was no cytotoxicity or whatever, then we're kind of done. Like, I don't have to do any more. I don't want to read more. So,
so everybody's going to say, I want some of that. What's the breadth of this? How many different types of devices, or what's the scope, I guess I should say, of the program? What does it apply to and what doesn't it?
So it can apply to any device. There's no device limitation. We, in terms of, and I think what we'll get to here is, what types of submissions can we see, what types of pathways can be used that ASCA can support those pathways. And it can be 510Ks, IDEs. Okay. I've seen summary reports in Q-subs, or at least proposed reports in pre-submissions.
Okay.
People have been using it to answer
it's
additional.
In a Q-sub.
Yeah, people talk about it like, we're going to do that. Does that sound good? Or here's our test plan. We're going to work with this ASCA accredited test lab to get ASCA
shorter
testing.
conversation. Yes,
awesome. Sounds great. Yeah, that's very easy.
Okay.
But in terms of the reports we get out of those, usually they're even more straightforward because we're aware they're coming, and we already agree of the testing that they plan to do.
Right.
But IDEs, we've seen several IDEs. Those are clinical studies, and those are challenging reviews because they are 30 days we have to come to a decision. And that includes clinical design, a lot of safety considerations, especially if it's an implant, then it's a whole thing.
Right.
So ASCA really helps in those reviews because it should be straightforward.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What do manufacturers have to do to participate? You mentioned, folks bringing it in and in a consult prior to submission, finding out if this is a good path or not. But
sure.
What are the requirements or the steps for folks to participate?
So, from the manufacturer's perspective, it's pretty simple. You're doing what you're already doing. If you need to appropriately use a set of standards to support your pre-market submission, you're already aware or you have an idea of what standards you need to apply. And in order to do that, usually you're going to talk to a third party like a testing lab. What we would encourage you to do is look at our list of ASCA accredited testing labs, find one that's not far from you that includes the standards you need to evaluate in their scope. Contact that lab, ask about the ASCA program, say, I want to use ASCA to support my pre-market submission in the future, and they can walk you through that process.
Right.
And part
They're
of
already
that
partners in the process, so that
they
makes sense.
already
This is
know
another tool for them.
Right, and they should be aware of our guidance documents. They should be aware of our vaguely about how FDA's processes work, because I tell them about it all the time. We meet regularly, as do the biocompatibility experts. And so a manufacturer will talk to one of those labs, say, I want ASCA testing, and they will walk you through it. Develop a test plan with the lab, so you make sure you cover everything, so there's no nitpicking when FDA gets to it. We want to make sure that all the clauses are tested that need to be tested. Right. And then you get the same thing. You get the same full test report, everything you normally paid for, everything that's involved in a normal contract with the test lab. But on top of that, you get the ASCA accreditation, the ASCA summary test report.
Okay.
And then if you want to participate in ASCA, just give us the summary test report. That's one thing. Mention that you used ASCA in your cover letter. I can't mention this enough.
Okay.
Always mention it in the cover letter.
ASCA.
And then you would declare conformity to whatever standards, which basically just means, to the best of our knowledge, we're conforming with what the standard says, and where applicable, our device has been tested as it's described in the standard.
Right. So let me back up to one thing, and then I want to flip to sort of the future state.
Oh, sure.
So you mentioned 510K. How does this tie to eStar? I know that's a separate topic, but today eStar applies to 510K only as a requirement, correct?
Yes, that's
so what's
correct.
The intersection there, or is there one? Or
there is one, yes. So ASCA does show up in eStar. It is, and eStar is a way for, essentially it's a dynamic PDF that guides manufacturers towards what documentation do you need, what information do you need to provide in submitting a 510K. Right. And it all goes into one giant PDF document. Right. Now, part of that, part of eStar is standards. And there is a standards section. In that section, you can say what standards you intend to use or what standards test reports you have. If you used ASCA, you can select an option that is a declaration of conformity with ASCA. Okay. And then you just attach...
It's built in.
It's built in. You just attach the summary test report wherever it makes sense. Essentially, there's an EMC section. If you did -1, -2 testing for electromagnetic compatibility, you would drop it right in that section. Okay. If you did biocompatibility, there's a biocompatibility section. You'd attach it to that section. And there are kind of, as you walk through, contextual triggers for for submitting ASCA summary test reports in that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right, so thanks for helping us with that linkage. So let me ask about the future of the program. So been very successful in pilot. It's now a permanent program. You guys negotiated that through MEDUFA. Yep. What's next? Where do you go from here?
Yeah, this is part of MEDUFA as well, actually. One piece of it was make sure we work with stakeholders to figure out how to expand ASCA program. So, ASCA is operating with two basic areas, biocompatibility and then basic safety and essential performance. So that's the 10993- of a couple of numbers, and then 60601-1 and many numbers, all the particulars and collaterals that we recognize at FDA. But what's next, right? To your point, where do we go from here? How do we help manufacturers and our review staff achieve the things we're achieving now with these two technical areas with additional technical areas? So one thing we intend to do is hold a workshop, and this will be in the spring, I think April of next year. Okay. Don't quote me on a date, but I'm pretty sure that's when we're holding it. It'll be a virtual webinar where we will have discussions about where is there an appetite to go? Where does it make sense to expand into? Like, are there established pass-fail criteria in such a way that we can kind of truncate what would be a full test report into something that's easier to review? If we can say this test lab is definitely doing it properly, then the output of that should be easier to streamline and easier to just read, to be honest.
Right. Okay. So it's additional sort of technical expansion into the areas that make sense. You mentioned the workshop that may be happening. There's some other outreach we're hoping to support you on, so we'll keep people posted on that. But in terms of today, right now, if folks want to learn more, do they come to the website? Where can they? Obviously, you said consult the labs, and that's important. But what else is out there that they can turn to?
Yeah, go to our website. I don't know it off the top of my head. Google FDA and ASCA, it's going to come up straight away. How we all get there. Yep. So I know, I can hear the eye rolls through the camera. It's a government website. How helpful can it be?
It's a special camera we have.
Yeah, right. And
actually, kudos to you guys. It's a pretty good website.
It's not bad.
Yeah, there's good people shouldn't knock it too much.
It's not terrible.
That's right.
It's okay. Right. I've been on terrible government websites, I know. But this one's pretty good. There's good information. We have different tabs for every stakeholder. So an accreditation body, a manufacturer, and a test lab. So you can go see how to participate in ASCA in your relevant area, and that'll break it down. So manufacturers, what do you need? A declaration of conformity, cover letter mention, and the summary test report, and that's it. And all of that is found on our website, and I think there are cross-links to eStar, like you mentioned.
Okay.
And part of eStar, I forgot to mention eStar. It does make declaring conformity easier. When you select declaration of conformity or declaration of conformity with ASCA, it just auto-generates that form. And it goes at the end, and then any additional context, you can add it in there.
That's fantastic.
But all this information you can find on our website. There's good stuff there.
And you mentioned, and we've been talking about them, but we haven't been talking about them, the labs. So labs that want to participate, obviously you go to the website and get the information there as well. But is there anything you want to say about their participation? Obviously you want to expand adoption by labs. So anything special to say there?
No, we get. I think that we get interested labs frequently, and when we do hold this workshop, we are going to promote it a great deal. So we ensure that we're getting people from multiple technical disciplines and labs that cover mechanical testing, maybe sterility, maybe. We can have conversations about cybersecurity and a number of other technical areas that people just throw at us. And they're like, why don't you do that? And it's like, sounds like a great idea.
Put
no problem, right?
Yeah,
I'll put
it on the list. It's a matter of prioritizing the list.
Sure, and what's most practical to expand into to maximize how we can help everybody.
Right. And the most important group we haven't mentioned is the patient.
Absolutely.
So all of this gets streamlines the regulatory process, supports safety, and gets these devices out to patients more quickly and safely. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and really we wanted this program to kind of push a lot of our review practices upstream a little. So we get kind of built into more the design-y phase, where it's like we want more safe products designed and then tested naturally, but the safer they are in the design process, the more easy it is to get a safe, effective product on the market later.
It doesn't benefit anyone to get all the way down to the submission and then have a problem. That's a lot of misallocated resources.
Oh, it's horrible. For manufacturers, it's horrible for everybody. No one enjoys that.
Absolutely. So anything I didn't think to ask you about the program or what's coming that you want to get out there? Did we cover everything?
I think we might have covered everything. I would say, call to action. Use the program. We're at 36-ish, maybe 40-ish, thereabouts, submissions with ASCA testing in there.
Okay.
That's all right. It's not a lot, but it's a sample size.
Yeah.
And we'd love to see more because we know that labs are testing and it's going well. And pre-market review is going relatively well too. And that's what we want to see. And we can improve the more we see summary test reports.
Fantastic.
And streamline as we go forward. But yeah.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to supporting you in all these efforts and seeing what comes next. So thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Be well.
Yeah, you too.